Hey everybody, what's up? I wanted to talk about something different. I know there's a lot of people out there who have a hard time accepting the fact that they might like guys, and I was one of them. When I was younger, well, it was not easy. I grew up in a small town in Indiana. Population probably 12,000 at the time. Still about 12,000. Once you are born there, you really don't leave. So everybody knows everyone. This video, it's gonna be pretty long. Mainly, I'm making this video to help anybody that might be struggling with who they are. I'm just here to tell you it's okay. However, my story is somewhat, it was difficult for me, actually. So at any rate, here's my story. I figured out I was gay when I was in between 7th and 8th grade. All throughout 7th grade, I was like, I kept looking at this guy like in my English class, and he was pretty attractive. Although I didn't see him as attractive at that point in my life because I wasn't really attracted to people yet. It was, still young, so he was in my English class the whole year, and just, I didn't know why, but I thought about him a lot, and I didn't have sexual thoughts about him, but he was just on my mind. After school ended that year, summertime, he wasn't around, so I was just, I realized, hey, I like him, I'm attracted to him. I don't know, it kind of just clicked on me at that point. So that's when I realized that I like guys, was from that guy, that specific one, and I had the biggest crush on him for years going on after that, but that's another story I can tell you. That'll take all day. So another reason that, I found out I was gay was not everyone finds out the same way. It's different. I was around when the internet wasn't very popular. Not very many people had the internet when I was a kid, so early 2000s. So I would visit websites with penises on them, and I would tell myself that it was only because I want to compare my own to other people's. Just this, because, I had no idea what it was about, and I wanted to learn, but secretly I think that I knew I was more interested than just comparing because I kept going to those websites. Penis.com was actually the first porn site that I visited, and I actually went to it at the library. They had these sections. It was somewhat secluded. There were people that could see it, but not very many. That was, my first experience on the internet of that. Over the next few years, I would say 2 to 3 years, because I was 8th grade, so 8th, and you're a freshman, and then you're a sophomore. I think I finally accepted that I was gay when I was a sophomore. It took me a while. Off and on throughout my beginning years, all throughout my life, obviously, but mainly the part that really bothered me was between 8th grade, I'd say all the way from 7th grade throughout sophomore. Those 4 years was the part that really bothered me. People would ask me if I was gay, and I would be like, no. And I would get really defensive, and I'd tell people how gross it was, and I would really, honestly, I would try so hard to be masculine, and it didn't work that well for me. Seriously, I studied people, and I would practice really hard about trying to not act so girly. It was, I don't know why, but it was not that easy for me. But now I just, I'm me, and I'll be who I want. So it really didn't help that my parents weren't interested in sports at all, and both my dad and my mom love to go shopping at the mall every weekend. We went to the mall probably. The mall was a 45-minute drive from the house. That's probably why I wasn't so masculine anyways. My parents weren't interested in sports, and I didn't play any of them for that reason. I want to give you some information about my parents. So it's gonna be a little confusing. That way throughout the story you'll understand a little bit easier. My dad was married to my real mom. They got divorced when I was about 2. I moved in with my dad and my brother stayed with my mom. My dad married another woman about a year later, and that's the point where I moved in with him and her. So she became my stepmom. So now I have 2 moms. My dad was a pastor of a church. Obviously he was, extremely religious. We couldn't listen to anything but Christian music, and even when we played movies at the house, he would get super angry and always comment if they ever had even a cuss word or anything. We had 2 main family friends growing up. One group we'd hang out with during part of the week, and the other group we'd hang out with during the other part of the week. We wouldn't really ever hang out all of us together. I would go over there to our houses a lot, and we would actually, with the guy friends, after the parents went to sleep, we would play Truth or Dare a lot, and we always ended up doing something kind of gay. It was kind of weird. The funny thing is, none of them are gay now, and they all actually are married and have kids. My dad got divorced again, which is another story all of its own. And he married another woman about 3 months later. We went over to her sister's house, which we'll call Becky for the purpose of this video. There was the most beautiful guy was there. I was instantly in love with this kid. Which just so happened to be Becky's cousin. We'll call him Ben. I instantly became so infatuated with Ben, and I was crazy about him. I always asked if we'd go over to Becky's house, hoping he would be there, and to my disappointment, he wasn't there very often at all, actually. I ended up becoming best friends with Becky. And a few months later, I finally got the courage to tell the first person in my life that I was gay. And we were sitting in her car. She was dropping me off to go back home, and I told her that I like guys, and I was so nervous because I hadn't told anyone that I was gay, and I was pretty sure she'd take it, decently well. I still, I didn't know. She did take it pretty well. She was actually excited because now she could talk to me about the guys she liked, and we could go guy hunting and stuff. It was pretty cool. She was a pretty cool friend. 9 months later, my dad is divorced again and marrying my stepmom back. So back with my stepmom. I was a sophomore in high school at this point. I only had one guy friend, and I definitely wasn't ready to tell him my secret. Since 7th grade, we'd been friends, and we were both computer nerds, so we liked to play on the computer a lot. I would actually take my desktop computer over to his house, which, lugging around a humongous computer was a lot of work. We actually stopped being friends for a while. I don't really remember why at the moment, but it was almost a year before we started talking again. I was actually never sexually interested in him at all. I was finally a junior in high school. It was 2004. It's been almost 10 years. I had a crush on this guy since 8th grade when I saw him dancing with my friend at the high school. I had a huge crush on him. We'll call him David in this video. Just so happened to have the same lunch together. I really hated lunch because I was kind of a nerd in high school, and most people really want to hang out with nerds. So I didn't have that many people to eat lunch with, and my friends didn't exactly have the same lunch shift. So I dreaded going to lunch every day. However, I would see him at the end of lunch almost every day. So I would see him at the waiting area in the hallway before they released us to go back to our lockers to get ready for our next class during lunch, and he would be there almost every day. Finally, after a month of us both making eye contact, where you're too embarrassed to say anything, but you both know that you want to say something, he finally said hi and walked over to me and said hi. And then we talked for a few minutes, and then it was time to go to class. However, he invited me to eat lunch with him and his friends. So we had upstairs lunch and stuff, so we sat upstairs. His friends were really nice. They were all gay, and one was extremely flamboyant. He was in theater and acting, all that stuff, so you can imagine. I was invited to go to a party that they were having. It's like a sleepover. This was probably 2 weeks after I started eating lunch with them. This was the night I found out that this guy I've had a crush on since 8th grade had a boyfriend, and I was slightly heartbroken. I was so nervous at this party because honestly, this was like the first party I'd really been invited to, besides the ones that we have at our church, which were retarded. However, they were all super nice to me. They all seemed to really like me. We were watching a movie, and about an hour into the movie, we were all just talking and pretty much ignoring the movie. David asked me if I like guys or girls, and I already knew that he was gay, and everyone there was gay that was a guy, so I mean, I didn't have much trouble saying that I like guys. At any rate, I was still nervous, and my voice is probably scratchy. As I said, I like guys. But I felt a huge relief when I said that, so I felt like, ugh, finally, I can relax. Everyone smiled, and the rest of the guys all told me that they like guys too. So later that night, Flamboyant one painted his fingernails clear, and then he asked me if I wanted mine done too, and I actually was excited to be finally part of a group, and I said, sure, you can paint my nails. Life was actually pretty great at that point. I was doing well until I asked my mom if I could go to, it's called Fort Wayne, it's the city. That was the closest mall from our house. It was about a 45-minute drive. She refused to let me go unless she met the person that I was going with. I was a little scared for her to meet him because I didn't know what to expect. He came in and introduced himself to her, and she was pretty nice to him and seemed like she liked him to me, so let's go have fun. However, the next day, she told me that she thought I was gay and that I couldn't hang out with him anymore. I told her that he wasn't gay, and she said that she knew he was. So I was really upset because finally I had met some pretty awesome friends. I was doing really well. And then my parents told me I couldn't hang out with them. So after a couple weeks of me being super angry at my parents for that, I decided that I was going to tell them I was gay. I was really, really nervous about this. I had already told one of the family friends that we hang out with. I told the mom and dad that I was gay, and we'll call them Sally and Bill, and they were okay with it. So I'm here in the living room, and I tell my parents that I need to talk to them. I tell them to come out here. And we all sat down in the living room. This was springtime 2005. I was so nervous right now because I knew they weren't going to accept me at all. And I was really, really scared to tell them. So after a few minutes of me twiddling my thumbs, and I finally just said it, I was like, I just wanted to tell you that I'm gay and I like guys. It felt like a big mistake. They sort of freaked out. They both said it was the most disgusting thing in the world, and that I was going to hell, and that I was a big sin, and how gross it was, and they couldn't even think about it anymore. They thought it was nasty. It was pretty miserable. It was bad. It was pretty bad. I really couldn't handle it anymore. So I went and left the living room. I went to my room, and I was like crying and stuff. So I was packing my bags at that point. I just felt really hurt that my parents, didn't accept me. So for 3 weeks, I didn't call them, and finally they called me and told me to come home. So I did. I kind of did miss my room and my bed, and I didn't really talk to them much. real mom, which kind of happened in the most awkwardly way possible. I was talking to this guy on MySpace, and he lived in the same city as my mom, which was about 2 hours away. It was close to Indianapolis. After I talked to him for a few weeks, I had my friend David drive me over there to hang out with him and meet him. I told my parents I was going to my mom's for the weekend and that I'd be back on Sunday. You know, like usual, I went there a couple times a month. However, they called my mom to make sure I was there because they didn't trust me anymore because I was gay. And they wanted to know where I was all the time. And hanging out with guys at this point was not an option at all. So I got a call from my real mom. She was asking me what was going on and why I told my parents that I was with her when I really wasn't. Which actually really hurt her because she really cared a lot about me and was sad that I used her as a way to hang out with somebody else. So I told her I need to talk to her and explain what was going on. So I went over to her house and my friend stepped outside. It was just me and her talking, and I was pretty nervous. I had no idea how she was going to react. She's way more open-minded, so I knew it wouldn't be as bad as how it was with my other parents, but I still, it's nerve-wracking. So I told her. Finally, one of my parents supported me. She didn't mind at all, but she gave me a hug. We went to Starbucks and talked for a couple hours, and she told me that she fully supported me. It wasn't a choice anyone could make, and I should be there no matter what happens for me. I felt such a relief from the world, and everything got so much better. Just having a parent that was there to support you, even though she was a couple hours away. So I went back home that weekend to my parents' house, and the next several months was pretty rocky and uncomfortable. I learned that not talking about being gay or anything related to that was a way to pretend it wasn't real. So now I'm graduating. I'm a senior in high school. About time to be done with high school. I'm so sick of it. I hate high school. I want to be all finished. I've gotten all A's and B's in high school. I never did drugs. I never drank alcohol at this point. I never smoked cigarettes or any other substances. I was a really good kid, honestly. I was quite the opposite of my stepbrother. Yeah, I was the one who was looked down upon because I was gay. I had had a steady job since I was 14. I worked really hard and I never called in, but I was my graduation party. I invited my friends and most of them came. It was pretty fun. Everything went pretty well with my family as long as I didn't bring up the fact that I was gay or talked about relationships. So yeah, now it's time for the video to get a little bit happier. My real mom moved to Florida in January of 2006, so a few months before I graduated high school. And that year, in July, I moved down there with her. Dad, does tell me like all the time that how much he misses me and he loves me a lot. And accepting that person for who they are. It just might take you actually moving out. If it wasn't for my friends, however, I don't know how well I would have gotten through emotionally. My advice to anyone who might be thinking about coming out to their parents would be come out to your friends first. Make sure that you family loves me and I have amazing friends and my life really is great right now. So I it's like completely different than the types of videos I normally do. So please share it with your friends if you know anyone who might need some help going through this, because if I had YouTube back then, I would have been watching all kinds of these videos, and I know that it can be really helpful to hear other people's experience and how it turned out. But if you guys have any questions and need help with anything, I will do my best to answer questions. Just write me on Facebook or Twitter or any of those other